So hi, I'm Michael. I'm a small business owner. I do improv, I do some acting, but most of all, I'm a TV host and your host right now for what we call the Second Scene podcast. It's a Dweebs global production, and they give free resume help, mental health assistance, you name it, they give it. They have mentors from around the world, over 500 of them, and it's completely free. So please go to dweebsglobal.org. And I swear it's confidential and it is free. So I'm here today with Cheney Daughtry. Cheney has overcome addiction, mental abuse, anxiety, depression, low self-worth, digestive issues, pretty much everything that I've had, and so much more. And she's helping others overcome theirs as well. And that's what she's pretty much dedicated her life to at this point. So thank you for being here with us today.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, I can connect with quite a few of those. I had digestive issues just last night. I thought about calling this morning and be like, hey, I didn't sleep because of my digestive. But I'm like, she'll understand.
I do understand. I understand that completely.
Yeah. Have you always had depression and anxiety? Was this something you were born with or something that kind of came along as?
No, that's the crazy thing, that it all developed after my mentally abusive relationship.
Right. Well, that's where we differ. Mine definitely came. I can't blame anyone but myself on mine.
This is naturally,
yeah,
genetically.
That is. It's definitely genetic. I think there's some of us. There's definitely a big part to the genetics. How old were you when you got into this, I guess, relationship that really took you down a wrong path?
I met him when I was 22, 23, somewhere in that range. It was great at first, I mean, of course, it's like, I've always been very, I don't want to say shy, but just passive and easygoing. And, I like to sit back and see like what the situation is before I dive in, right? I'm kind of that kind of person. And he was the complete opposite, very like outgoing and funny and just like that guy you wanted to be around. So of course we were naturally attracted to each other because, he made me want to do more active things. And then I kind of calmed him down when he got a little out of control. So it was great at first. And, we liked the same things and, we had a lot of fun together.
Mm-hmm. How was he your age as well, or was he a lot older?
He's 5 years older.
Okay.
Yeah.
22, it makes a difference. Less of a difference as you get older, but.
Yes. Yeah, it does.
I'm sure you didn't even know what was going on at the time. But looking back on it, what was the first signs of it being abusive or unhealthy for you?
I think it was because I was so passive and, I liked to drink. So it kind of turned itself into a codependent relationship where I needed him and, we liked getting drunk together and, we liked, testing other things. And it really just ended up being a really codependent relationship. Mm-hmm. And looking back on it now, I remember like one specific moment. We had gotten into an argument about something and he punched a frame that was on the wall. So of course, glass shattered everywhere. He had glass like all in his knuckles. There was glass all over the floor. And I just remember like walking up to him, like, I don't care about myself. Let me just take care of you, And looking back on that now, I was like, oh my gosh, like that was such a codependent thing for me to do, was to not care about myself at all and just like run into this like glass filled room, and try to take care of him when he was like mad at me, so kind of like, okay, you're mad at me. Let me show you how much I love you with, this selfless action. So you can,
like a kid. Love. Yeah. And like a kid, it was almost like a reward for him. I'm sure it was, look at the attention I'm getting from her from this, subconsciously, I'm sure it is a bit like that. So.
Yeah. And I didn't, obviously coming out of it and learning from my, experience has really opened my eyes. And I just like get flashes of stuff that had happened. And I'm like, that is so crazy. Like, why did I even let that happen? Like that is so out of my normal character. Mm-hmm. When I'm not, attached to a person. And it just, it's just crazy when you're in a relationship. You don't see how bad it is because you're in the middle of it. and that chaos becomes normal, and you're scared of what it could be out of that normal, like your normal is crazy.
Right. Right.
But it's hard to think about what your life would be without it.
No, I get you.
I think that's why a lot of us get stuck.
Yeah, no, I completely understand. I feel like I was definitely in relationships in my 20s that were not healthy in many ways, that I feel bad about things that I said or did. I don't think they got as abusive as what you're talking about at all. I don't think I'm abusive, but I think we're both sides, and you feel trapped and you feel like that's your world, and the things that you end up doing together to each other just are crazy when you look back on it. You're like, holy cow, like we're in reality, we weren't trapped in a world. We were still part of the whole big world, but you forget what else is out there.
Yeah, exactly.
When do you think you really started getting the anxiety and depression because of it?
That happened after my daughter. I ended up getting really bad postpartum depression.
Okay.
And so that kind of spiked everything else.
Okay. So you guys had a child together?
Yes.
Okay.
We have a child, and she's fabulous. But after she was born, I developed really bad postpartum, and that kind of led into the anxiety. Also, after I had our daughter, she was my world then. She was my everything. And it took attention away from him. And that's when I kind of noticed that the narcissism personality coming out, because he wasn't my sole attention anymore. And then I kind of noticed like other things he was doing, to kind of get my attention maybe, or just be spiteful and gaslighting, like that kind of stuff, because I wasn't giving him my full attention. And that's when his addiction kind of got worse as well. The biggest thing that stands out as a great example of the trajectory, I guess, was 3 or 4 days after I gave birth. So of course my world is completely upside down. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm a first-time mom. I'm away from my mom, and it was really hard. And I was dealing with postpartum. So it was a really, really hard time for me, trying to figure all this out, breastfeeding, all the things. And he comes up to me late one night. I was breastfeeding, and he like comes into the room and it's just like, I need to tell you something. And I'm like, okay, like what's up? And he's like, I've been addicted to pain pills for, quite some time now. And I'm like, what? Like, I literally just had a child, and now you're telling me this problem. Right. Like, you waited until now to tell me this problem, so it's just that kind of stuff that like, wait, the attention isn't on me. Let me turn around and get the attention on me again.
Right.
So that's a huge example of, and then I was just like, I didn't know what to do at that point. I'm like, I'm so lost and confused myself. And now I have to get you into rehab or something. Like, what do you mean,
Right.
And
you needed him, your child needed him. You needed to be a team at that point, not
exactly. Not separated, not me now stressing about you and your addiction. I needed you, and he wasn't there.
Right.
And he'd always throw in my face like, well, you never changed a diaper the first 2 weeks of her life. And I'm like, that doesn't make you a good dad. Like, thank you for, not allowing me to change a diaper, thinking that you were going to be some heroic father because you didn't let me change a diaper. But at the same time, like, I needed you emotionally, and I didn't get that.
Right. And I'm sure all you can picture is while he was changing that diaper, he was probably thinking in his head, I'm doing my part. She can't blame me for anything now. I'm, showing how I have her covered. And that's not.
Right. That's not what I needed.
That was one little part of what he was supposed to be doing as a dad and a husband.
Right. Exactly. So it's just that kind of stuff that, it really, once I was completely out of the relationship, looking back at it, I was like, okay, yeah, that was the narcissistic personality of like, wait, I'm not number one. I need to be number one. What can I do and say to get number one?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Was there more, so he had an addiction to pain pills. Was there more of an addiction? I guess you guys drank a lot together, and there was, I'm sure with that came a lot more arguments and a lot more controlling
Oh
and
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So he had always had a problem. And I knew that when I met him that he was addicted to Xanax before. And, you know, coming into the relationship, you know, he had told me, you know, I was like, well, he's being open and honest about it. You know, he's saying it's not a problem anymore. I didn't see any issues, you know, going into it. Love is also blind, so I could have missed a lot of things. So he had always had a problem. And yes, we did like to drink. So that then became a problem. And the pain pills, you know, he ended up hurting his back. So of course, the pain pills became his thing. And then it was doctor shopping. And then it was, you know.
I know all about it. My brother had a major pain pill addiction, and he would do whatever he could to get his medicine. And yeah, I remember going doctor shopping with him in New York even, and I was in shock on how the whole system worked. And yeah, it was a lot of lying, it was a lot of controlling, and it was a lot of don't care about anything. I just need my pills. Yeah.
Right.
And
so fixated on getting his fix that everything else didn't matter, and he would lie and cheat and do whatever he needed to do to get that. And unfortunately, you know, people got hurt. His daughter doesn't have a father now because, you know, he was so fixated on the one thing that nothing else mattered.
Yeah.
And
Is he just out of her life?
Yes, out of it completely.
Gotcha.
Yeah. At the end of our relationship, you know, I basically told him, like, you know, I had gotten him into a rehab facility, and, you know, I told him, if you wanted to keep us as a family, you know, I needed you to get clean, and I needed you to do what you had to do, right, to get better. And of course, you can't force someone, you know, to go to rehab and get better, right? So he left, and I was like, yeah, I'm done. Like, I have literally done everything that I think I can possibly do to show you that I, you know, want the real you back. And he left, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, the control it has over them is my brother eventually passed away. So
Oh, I'm sorry.
yeah, so I know the control that it has. We put him in and out of rehab. You know, we tried everything you could, and at some point you can't.
No. Yeah, I mean, you have to let go, and that's the hardest thing. Is like, for me, I saw so much potential in him, and, you know, I did see glimpses of the real him without the drugs, and just seeing that, and then seeing the destructive path that he was going down, it was so hard to watch. It was so hard. And, you know, for me, being in the codependent relationship that I was, you know, it was, I need to prove my love to you. I need to prove that I want to be with you and that I want you in my life. So let me do these drugs with you to prove to you, you know, and then we'll get clean together. And that's what he kept promising me. Like, oh, just one more time. It's so much fun. And then we'll get clean together. You know, in hindsight, I didn't even want to do the drugs in the first place. I was doing it because of my, you know, codependent relationship, my depression, you know, my low self-worth, low confidence. You know, I couldn't stand up for myself and say no. So I got trapped in this world with him. And it took a lot for me to wake up, and it took my daughter basically to hit me over the frying pan. Be like, you know, I just like looked at her one day and I was like, what the hell am I doing?
Yeah.
Like, this is not my life. This is not what I want, you know? And ever since that day, I mean, it was actually 5 years ago yesterday that I had that wake up moment. And ever since then, I'm just like, no, like, I can't be like that anymore. Like, I need to live for myself, and I need to live for my daughter, and she needs a better life than what we've been giving her.
So how long were you guys together for?
We were, I think, together 10 years, married 7.
Okay.
Yeah, married. I mean, by the time the divorce was finalized, it was 8 years, but it was pretty much over by 7.
Other than your daughter, what do you think gave you the strength or made you really realize you need to get the hell out of there?
yeah, my family, my huge support system that I still had, really helped me. And because of the addiction, he had lost his job. We lost the house we were living in, so we had to move, and my parents took us in.
Oh, wow.
And if it wasn't for them opening their house to us, I don't know where I would be at this point. So I owe everything to my parents and their support and love, and just being in the house that I grew up in, being around my friends again, in my hometown, it really kind of showed me what I should have been doing, right? What I meant to be doing, and who I was before I even met him. So yeah, it was because of my family support. I was really able to pull out of it. When I did have that final like aha moment, then I was able to open up to my mom and be like, look, this is what's happening. Of course, she was not surprised. I mean, we're living there. I'm like, 30 pounds underweight. She's like, yeah, I knew. I was just waiting for you to tell me, and I'm just like,
Your mom was smart. If she had tried to cut in too much too early, it might not have,
It would have, yeah. I mean, we would have left, and that would have ended that relationship. So, I'm thankful that it all worked out the way it did. And I was able, to tell them what was going on, and they were able to back me up when I had to talk to him about like, hey, right, I'm sober. I'm not doing that anymore. I would love you to get sober. We would all love you to get sober. Like, we're willing to help you get into rehab. And just having that conversation with my parents, like by my side, it made it a lot easier, but it didn't end the emotional and, verbal trauma that was still happening in the house and things. So
I'm sorry, what was he still doing in the house when you were living with your parents?
He was still, the pain pills, because they are expensive, as I'm sure because of your brother. He was spending like $1,000 every 3 days.
Wow.
Yeah. Which I found a random checkbook, and I was just like, holy shit, like, what is this? Kind of eye-opening. And because obviously of the cost, that's why people go into the heroin, because it's the same high, but a lot cheaper.
Right. So
his addiction ended up going more into the heroin and meth, so the speedballs, I guess.
Okay.
And so by the time we moved in with my parents, everything just for him started sliding worse and worse. As I kept getting stronger and stronger, his addiction kept getting worse and worse. And he ended up basically being on the streets, but still living at home. So he'd be like gone all day, all night, and then would like come home at, I don't know, like 10, 11 at night, take a shower, and then he would like go off again. And I was like, I can't keep doing, like, what are you doing? I'm not going to keep allowing you to come just take a shower.
Right.
And then he would like blame me for, like the way my parents were treating him, or, how people were, people are sneaking around me and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, you're the one who's like crawling in the dark of night, taking a shower and then leaving. He became extremely paranoid and would create these realities that weren't real reality. It was his reality, right? He thought it was 100% true, but in the real world reality, it wasn't true. So in his reality, I was lying and cheating. And at one point he thought I worked for the CIA, and he thought I was a coder. To this day, I'm like, I don't even know what coding is.
You were a hacker.
Right. I was a hacker. I was for the CIA. Right, and that was like, and he believed it. And every time I said, I have no idea what coding is, I do not work for the CIA. Like, would I be here living at my parents' house if I worked for the CIA? Probably not. Right. But every time I then defended myself, because I was not this person that he thought I was, it would cause an argument because I wasn't giving into his reality. And it was bad. And he would like search the internet for like, I mean, hours, like 8 hours, just like dive into the internet and the dark web and all these things. And then would like come across a blog and would make it related to me. Well, you wrote this blog. It's about this person who, you know, he thought I was having an affair on. And I was like, I don't even know. I've never written a blog in my life, let alone, why would I write a blog about an affair that didn't even happen?
Right. You're kind of laying the groundwork for how conspiracies work right now, by the way.
Right.
So,
yes.
Like...
But yeah, I mean, it was crazy. It was crazy. And every time, of course, I defended myself, he thought I was lying. So then that just caused a bigger argument and a bigger issue between us. And it got to the point where I just agreed. I'm like, yeah, that was me. Yep, I did it. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yep. And then that would stop the argument. And then he would go about his merry way. And I'm like, oh my God. But in my heart, I'm like, I can't lie. Like, I don't want to lie. I don't want to be a liar. So it was hard. It was a big struggle for me internally to like, no, I need to lie so he doesn't get upset with me. And that then doesn't turn into a vicious cycle. But then internally, I'm like, I'm not a liar. I want to tell the truth. But if I tell the truth, it's going to cause an argument. I mean, it was crazy.
How'd you finally get him out of the house? I guess, did he just stop coming home or?
Yeah, I think it just kind of slowly fizzled out. I started standing up for myself more. He would like, you know, talk at me about stuff that wasn't true. And I would just sit there like, and just take it instead of fighting back, instead of trying to defend myself. I just eventually, I always said like, I just kind of grew a backbone that day. That was like my aha moment, I guess. I grew a backbone and was like, no, I'm going to stand up for myself. Like, I know who I am. I know what I need to do from this point on. So every time he would come at me with these like random ludicrous things, I would just sit there and just let him like talk at me. And I'd just be like, okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then I would go to bed. And then he was like, you don't even care. You just go in bed. I'm like, oh. And then he would leave. And I'm like, oh my God, thank you. You know, at least he left. And so it just kind of like, after a couple of weeks of that, he, wouldn't come home, didn't come home. And then one day, I mean, I basically just told my mom, like, I'm going to tell him not to come back. And she's like, okay. So, yeah. So I drove to like, you know, the park that he was hanging out at. And I just told him, and I was like, look, you know, if you want this family, like, you need to go to rehab. You know what you have to do to help yourself. And, you know, you're not allowed back at the house anymore. And I just drove away. And he came running after. I could see him in the rearview mirror, like running behind me. And I'm like, I can't, like, no, like, I can't. So a month later, and I had put myself back in school. So I was going to school, like getting my life together.
Nice.
Yes. So, and a month later, he pops up at the house and like nothing had changed, like crying and just so emotional. And I was, of course, stone cold, you know, like, what are you doing here? You know, like super defensive, just like, don't touch me, don't touch my daughter. Like, you know, I got you out of here. Like, what do you want? And he was just so emotional, just crying the whole time. He didn't want anything to do with Elise, my daughter. And, you know, I put her on the iPad and I was like, go watch a show, you know, like mommy and daddy have something to talk about. And he was crying about how I wasn't using my cosmetology license and just like all this stuff that was not relatable to what the point was, you know. And I was like, why are you here? You know, and he's like, you know, I honestly don't even remember what he said. I must have blocked that out of my memory, but I was just like, just remember him being super emotional, crying about stuff that didn't even matter. You know, I'm putting myself through school to get a better job than, you know, like, because yeah, I was a cosmetologist and that was fun for a while, but I moved on, right? I'm ready to do something else. So I'm putting myself through school, and it was just so bizarre. And he was just going on about nothing. And I was just sitting there at the table, just like staring at him. And I'm like, I don't even know what's going on right now, you know? And then he was getting mad at me that I wasn't like emotional and crying and like happy to see him. And I was all, you still haven't done the one thing that I've asked you to do to get this family back together.
Mm-hmm.
You know what you have to do, and there's nothing else that I can do to help you until that happens.
Yeah.
And I made him leave. And I was like, look, like he didn't want anything to do with my, our daughter. He didn't want to see her, talk to her, nothing. It was just crying at me about something that didn't even matter. And it was very bizarre. And I made him leave, and I immediately called an attorney and got a restraining order. I don't know what he wanted out of that conversation. And it was clear that he was still on drugs, and I wasn't going to allow myself to dip down to his level again, because I had, already taken the steps to get myself healthy and better and in therapy and all the things that I had to do. So, and he wasn't doing what he had to do. So I got the restraining order.
Right. So are you ever afraid he's going to still come by at some point, or?
It's always in the back of my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always, because I don't know where he is. I haven't heard from him in 4+ years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Is there any advice we can give people who maybe know someone who's in a type of relationship like this, like what they can do, how they can help show them the light, like, or?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I had the like magic tool, but coming from a place of, I've been in that situation and I've had friends try to help me out, and I couldn't take it. And if you see someone in that position, I mean, honestly, you just kind of have to wait until they wake up. And that's what happened to me was, my best friend in the whole world basically waited for me to come out of it. And, talking to her now, she was like, I didn't know what the heck was going on, Cheney, but I didn't want to make it worse by interjecting myself into the relationship. She kind of trusted that I would pull out of it. And luckily I was able to pull out of it. And I know that's not the case for everybody, but yeah, I mean, just show your love and support without trying to intervene too much. I mean, that was my situation anyway, and I know obviously like we weren't physical. He never hit me. It was all mental abuse and verbal abuse.
Right.
So I think if there was more physical, I would have left sooner. But
I don't know though.
Right. I would have hoped to think that I would have, but exactly, who knows in the situation. But definitely find support, whether that be friends, family, a group, a codependency group, an Al-Anon group, just something. You need support. You need other people around you. Even if you go to the support group and you don't say anything, just sitting there feeling other people's energies and positive energies around you will help you kind of realize the situation that you're in.
Got you. What are you doing now to help others?
I'm a coach now. So I help other people really find themselves, find a better future, find self-love, and really pursue their passions like I have been, and just helping people kind of from that place of really lost and confused and not sure where to go, after trauma, or, maybe it is digestive issues. I help with that too, because my digestive issues happened after all of my trauma. Because of the trauma, I developed digestive issues. So I help people through that as well with real food, meditation, mindfulness, all the things.
Okay. Yeah. And that all is such tremendous help. Yes.
Yes. And then sharing my story, obviously, I'm hoping that I'm giving some people inspiration and encouragement to get out too, if they find themselves in that kind of situation.
I'm sure you are. Thank you for being so open and honest. And
it's my story, and I can't be ashamed of it. I can't hide it. It's mine, right? So if I can share it and help other people, then I'm more than happy to do that.
Well, thank you so much for sharing it with us. Where can people find you?
They can find me on Instagram, and it's just my name. It's at Cheney_Daughtry.
Okay, for people who don't know that spell, that's Cheney and then Daughtry, Daughtry.
That's right.
thank you so much for being here with me today. I really enjoyed this.
Thank you.
As hard as it was, it was lethargic, and I connected with it on a lot of levels. So
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, and thank you for opening up, and having this topic on your show.
whenever I can talk about my brother, as hard as it is, there's something lethargic about it. There's something that getting it off my chest.
I mean, yeah, and I think connecting with people who have been through it too just makes you feel less alone.
Oh yeah. So thank you again. This has been a Dweebs Global production. You can go there for free resume help, free mental health assistance, and so much more. It's completely free. dweebsglobal.org.